Hey guys, tonight we're traveling back to the dusty underbelly of one of the most secretive operations of the 20th century. You've just taken a government job, a quiet posting, they said. Comfortable salary, good hours, nothing too strenuous, just a few shelves, some boxes, and a stack of parchment. Nothing to lose sleep over. Except you arrive on your first day to find a basement, not a cute little storage closet with archived newspapers, but a vast, cold labyrinth that smells like chalk, varnish, and something slightly calcified, the kind of place where time feels paused. Where silence isn't just quiet, it has weight. You're the new archivist at Ahnenerbe, the Nazi research institute dedicated to uncovering the scientific roots of Aryan superiority. And no, you didn't sign up to build Reagans or translate ancient dragon scrolls. You were assigned to the Skull Division. Specifically, Shelf for C through 7F, where over 100 human skulls are stacked neatly on oak planks, each labeled with a fading, typed note and an impossible-to-pronounce village name. Some of them have red stickers. Nobody explains why. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with your city and local time. I'd love to know where in the world you're falling asleep tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You put on your gloves, the cotton kind, not for protection, but ceremony. There's something almost sacred about how your supervisor slides open the first drawer. Be gentle, she says. Some of them are delicate. You look down. The skull in front of you is perfectly clean, smooth like porcelain, and missing its jaw. A small crack runs from the temple to the cheekbone, as if it had been dropped once by accident or design. The note beside it reads, Subject for 1B. Captured nearby a Jaeger. Unusually symmetrical. What does that even mean? Your job is to measure the curvature of the cranium, the angle of the eye sockets, the depth of the nasal cavity, and to enter the results in the ledger, which is half scientific terms and half eugenicist nonsense. They told you it was anthropology. What they didn't tell you is how quiet it would be, not silent. Mind you, there's always the sound of old wood settling, of distant boots echoing from upstairs, and the subtle squeak of drawers being pulled. But deeper than that, there's something else. A kind of humming you can't place. Maybe it's in the walls, or maybe it's in your head. It comes and goes, always when you're alone. There are rumors, of course. You overheard one technician whisper to another that some skulls were taken from prisoners who hadn't quite died yet. Another has said that some were retrieved from archaeological digs, but others were just stolen, requisitioned, as the forms say. There's even one with a bullet hole straight through the crown. You name him Franz, for no reason at all. But the worst part isn't the skulls. It's how used the tape measures are, worn and oily, like dozens of fingers have held them. One still has a smudge of dried blood on the handle. You try not to think about it. You try to work. Measure, record, repeat. There's a rhythm to it. A monotony, a kind of trance. You almost forget what you're doing until you pick up skull 58er, and its single quote says ... warm ... only for a second, like it had been sitting in sunlight. But there's no sun down here. You place it down gently, step back, tell yourself it's nothing. The room creaks. You take your tea break exactly at 3 p.m. There's a thermos and a cracked porcelain cup waiting in the utility sink, where someone's drawn a little smiley face in charcoal on the tile wall above it. You sip, you stare, you tell yourself this is temporary. Just until the war ends, just until they reassign you to a real post. Something like translating maps or organizing old coins. But each day, the skulls grow stranger. One still has scraps of mummified flesh on the underside. Another is fused, literally, fused to what looks like a piece of Tibetan bronze. No one has a file for that one. It just appeared in your drawer on Thursday. And still, the humming, louder now. Historians still argue whether Ahnenerbe truly believed in the occult, or whether it was just propaganda, a mix of pseudoscience and theatrical showmanship. But standing here, you begin to wonder, because when you return from your break, the skulls have shifted. Not much, just a few millimeters. But enough that Franz is now facing the wrong way, and skull for 1B is somehow on top of the pile again. Even though you filed it an hour ago, you don't tell anyone. You don't want to sound paranoid. Or worse, replaceable. Instead, you just keep measuring, one skull at a time, one breath at a time, one soft scrape of bone against wood, over and over, until the hours pass like cold molasses. You file your final note. Close the ledger. Glance once more at the row of blank eye sockets staring back at you. And then you turn off the light. But not before checking twice, because one of them blinked. You're almost sure of it. You come in the next morning exactly at 7:03, not because you want to, but because you woke up at 4:17, wide-eyed and tangled in your sheets, convinced you heard someone whispering your name in a language you don't know. The basement is colder. Today, your breath fogs, and your supervisor is nowhere to be found. No note. No locked door. Just, not here. So you make the tea yourself. You don't touch her cup. You bring your own now on with a chipped rim, and the words "Eclebe" Bucker scribbled in blue glaze. You thought it might be funny at the time. It isn't now. You return to your skulls. But the drawer labeled 5-7D sticks. You tug gently. It opens an inch. Then to then all the way. Inside. A tape measure. A protractor. And a cup of still warm tea. You did not leave it there. You do not drink it. Instead, you decide to be scientific about this. Logical. Professional. So you sit. You open the next drawer. And you begin again. Measure. Record. Compare. Only now, someone's added new columns to your ledger. You don't remember them being there yesterday. One reads, occipital symmetry under duress. Another, likely phenotype, pre-Atlantean. You laugh, a little, because at last one pre-Atlantean was part of a fringe theory proposed by Carl Maria Willigot, one of Himmler's favorites. He believed the Aryan race descended from an ancient sunken continent, filled with giants and psychic warriors. The official term, alternative anthropology, unofficially, full-on fantasy wrapped in lab coats. And yet there it is, in your ledger, as if someone expects you to check for it. You look again at the skull in your hands. It's unusually large, not in a medical sense. Just wrong, slightly too wide at the temples. The teeth oddly small. You lift your calipers. Then pause, because there's writing on the underside, tiny, etched letters barely visible, unless the light hits it. Just so. Sanskrit. You squint, trace the curve of the text with your gloved finger, and realize it's identical to the script engraved on that metal case you saw yesterday, the one brought in by the Tibet team. Right, the Tibet team. Now that was a whole thing. You never met them personally, but their presence lingers. The archive smells different when you open their crates, like stale incense and yak butter. Their expedition was sent in 1938, officially to study elevation effects on the Aryan physique. Unofficially, they were searching for the mythical homeland of the Aryans, somewhere beyond the mountains. Somewhere that might explain everything. Tibet, the rooftop of the world, the place where maps start lying. Historians still argue whether the mission was scientific, spiritual, or just a very elaborate excuse for a vacation with rifles. But the crates they sent back, they tell another story. One box contained nothing but bells, another, bundles of prayer flags, each stained with something dark. The most infamous item, a preserved human hand, clutching a sphere of carved jade. No one knows what the sphere does. Some say it's an egg. Others say it vibrates. You asked once where the team went. Your supervisor said, they're probably still hiking. She didn't smile when she said it. Back at your desk, the calipers feel heavier. Like the air around you is pressing in. You try to focus, but your eyes keep drifting back to the Sanskrit. You take out a notebook, sketch the characters, cross-reference with the tiny red booklet they gave you during orientation, common occult symbols, a field guide for the cautiously curious, but the characters aren't listed. Not even close. So you do what any bored archivist would do. You write a joke note. Skull 77C. Slight cranial asymmetry. Possible altitude acclimatization. Also possibly cursed. Needs more tea. You smile. Just a little. Because if you don't make yourself laugh, the walls might do it for you. And then the light flickers. Only. Once. Then again. You look up. The bulbs overhead swing slightly, as if someone walked past, but the room is still. Utterly still. You write it off as a draft. You write everything off as a draft now. That night, in your dreams, you're climbing stairs made of bone. At the top is a monk wearing an SS uniform and holding a mirror. You ask him where the others went. He just says, "You brought the skulls with you." You wake up sweating. But it's not fear. It's that the dream made sense. Too much sense. You begin to wonder if the Tibet team really came back, or if maybe they came back differently, reassembled, rearranged. And you begin to wonder about yourself. How long have you been here? You check your ledger. Page 73. But you don't remember writing 72 pages before it. And your handwriting has changed. You decide you're overthinking it. You drink your tea. Carefully, slowly, let the heat bloom across your tongue. Even if it tastes faintly of metal, the skulls wait. And you keep working. Because what else is there? You've stopped asking where your supervisor went. There's a new man now. Tall, crisp uniform, silver-rimmed glasses. Doesn't blink much. Speaks only when necessary. He gives you new files each morning with a nod. A faint smell of leather and lavender clinging to his coat. Today's file is stamped Tibet, Group B, High Altitude Artifacts. You raise an eyebrow. Group A was the famous expedition, the one that sent back bells and bones. Group B, you've never heard of them. You flip open the folder. Inside are photos, grainy, black and white, taken in the foothills of Lhasa. The captions are handwritten and meticulous. Subject 14. Monastery wall etching depicts elongated skull deity. Subject 26. Frozen body preserved eyes intact. Subject 31. Unknown. You pause. That's it. Just unknown. The photo shows a silhouette of a figure standing in the snow. The camera caught them mid-turn. Their faces unclear, blurred, or missing. You can't tell. So you do what archivists do. You catalogue, you tag. You pretend it's normal to handle boxes labeled monastic fragments, blood-stained. You open one. Inside, a roll of red cloth, tightly wound, with a tiny bell sewn to one corner. It jingles when you move it, and your stomach turns slightly, like it's vibrating against something inside you. You don't touch it again. Instead, you shift to the crate marked altitudinal anomalies. It contains stones. Perfect spheres, too smooth to be natural, too irregular to be machine-made. And then there's the masked bronze, humanoid, with slanted eye sockets and an exaggerated frown. It's not Tibetan. It's not anything you recognize, but someone's labeled it, prototype Aryan divine figure. You don't know what that means, and neither, you suspect, does anyone else. Historians still debate whether Ahnenerbe's Tibet mission found anything of real value. Some argue it was all propaganda, a photo op for ideological fairy tales. Others insist there were real discoveries, hidden behind layers of mysticism and misdirection. You're somewhere in between, holding a cracked sphere that glows faintly when the lights are off. You make a note. Sphere 9 glows faintly in darkness, possibly radium. Possibly not. You place it in drawer 11, far away from the tea shelf, and just when you think the day's winding down, Someone knocks on your basement door, which is strange, because it's always locked from the outside. You freeze. The knock comes again. 3 soft taps. Then silence. You wait. Then open the door. No one. Just a folder. Thick, weather-worn. The label, in smudged red pencil. Return. Do not file. Do not read. So naturally, you read it. It's a field journal, leather-bound, water-stained, written in ink that fades in and out, like it's breathing. You flip to the middle. Day 17. Base camp gone. Only I remain. The monks speak of a city made of breath. They say we are being unmade, word by word. I tried to draw it, but the paper screamed. You shut the book. You pretend you didn't just read that sentence. You place the journal on the shelf behind you. The one for misfiled items. The one nobody ever checks. You need air. Not fresh air, there's none of that in this building. But air that hasn't been inside someone else's lungs. You climb the stairs. Push the heavy door. It resists, then relents. And you find yourself in a hallway you don't recognize. You've walked this building 4 months. Maybe years. But this hallway is different. The wallpaper is older. The lights dimmer. The portraits along the wall are all blank. You walk left, then right, and the hallway spits you out exactly where you started. So you return to the basement, because it's the only place that stays the same. Mostly. Your desk is wet. Circle of moisture where the red cloth bell sat earlier. But you moved it, didn't you? Didn't you? You dry the table. Reopen your ledger. Resume your work. Measure. Record. Pretend. But your hands are shaking now. Not from fear. Not exactly. It's the realization that the skull you're holding, skull 31A, has the same proportions as the figure in the Tibet photo. Exactly the same. You check the drawer again. The photo is gone. Only the unknown label remains. You take a slow breath, set down the skull. You reach 40, but your cup is already full. Steam rising, and someone has added to sugar cubes. You take a sip, because what else is there? You wake up already sitting at your desk. Not just metaphorically, literally. Your hand is wrapped around a pen. The ledger is open, and there's a full page of notes in your handwriting. But you don't remember writing them. At the top of the page, translation log, manuscript 13Z. Oh no. You glance at the shelf above your desk. The metal case is gone. In its place is a rolled parchment, bound with braided red string. And a note. Begin immediately. Use gloves. Do not sound out loud. You blink. Once. Twice. Try to remember if this is real or part of a dream. The paper is warm to the touch, despite the chill. And it smells like melted wax, rotting flowers, and something smoky, metallic, and sharp, like burned mercury, if that's even a thing. You tug at the string. It unties itself. Inside. Sanskrit. Hundreds of lines. Curling. Looping. Precise. This isn't monk handwriting. It's too symmetrical. Too controlled. You recognize a few fragments, phrases from old Vedic hymns. But they're in the wrong order, like a spiritual ransom note. The eye that sees itself becomes the door. Bind the breath. Reverse the sky. And your favorite. The bones remember where the soul was put. Cool. Definitely what you want to read before your 3rd cup of tea. You take a pencil. Start scribbling translations in your notebook. You're not a trained Sanskritist, but the phrases are repetitive, cyclical. Like someone whispering a secret over and over until it wears into your brain like river into stone. And then you get to the center, a symbol, not a word, just a shape. An eye inside a wheel, inside a skull. When you look at it too long, your head begins to ache, your pencil breaks. You don't write anymore. Historians still argue whether Ahnenerbe's linguistic work had any actual merit. Some say it was all theatre dressing up racist ideology in the robes of dead languages. Others insist the Institute was genuinely chasing ancient knowledge, twisted as the pursuit became. But this This isn't ideology. This is invocation. You flip the parchment over. It's blank, except there's a stain. A THUMB PRINT. Yours. You didn't touch it with your bare hands. You check your gloves. Still on. And yet. The door to the archive creaks open. A familiar figure enters, the tall man with the glasses. He doesn't speak, just nods once toward the parchment. You nod back. He closes the door without a word. You stare at the parchment a little longer. Then you roll it up, tie it again, place it on the shelf, but the string refuses to knot. It unravels the moment you turn your back. So you burn it. You slide the parchment into the furnace at the far end of the archive, where old documents go to vanish. You watch it curl and blacken and spark, but the smell doesn't go away. Not that night, not the next. And your dreams are filled with smoke. You wake again at your desk, to full pages of translation this time, your handwriting. Different pen. You flip the page. At the bottom, scrawled in ink that doesn't match the rest. Do not let them read it aloud. You tear the page out, crumple it, toss it in the bin. But it's back on your desk the next day. Smoother, neater. Framed. You don't touch it again. Instead, you pull another skull from the drawer. Skull 9 to -K. It has carvings along the jawline, matching the symbol from the manuscript. The eye in the wheel in the skull. It wasn't there yesterday. You measure it anyway, because that's your job, because that's what they brought you here for. You jot a note in your ledger. Skull 9 to K. Carvings appeared post-catalogue. Recommend reanalysis or salt. You had a tiny smiley face, because if you stop joking now, you'll never start again. The next day, there's a small box on your chair. Inside, salt. No note. You don't ask. You sprinkle a line across the drawer just in case. And for the first time in weeks, the skulls don't shift overnight. You take that as a win. Outside, the war rages on. You hear distant radio chatter, sometimes crackly voices listing places that sound more like riddles than cities. Everything feels far away, unimportant. The real war is down here. Anyway, between forgetting and remembering, between what the bones say and what they don't, you sharpen your pencil, you open the next file, and you keep going, because you're not done yet, and neither are they. The next file you're assigned is labeled Nasal Index Correlation, Mediterranean versus Nordic. That's a real phrase someone typed with real fingers. The first page is a chart. A dense, agonizing chart, lines and numbers and percentages and angles of nasal bone elevation. You're pretty sure even your nose feels insulted. Welcome to the craniometric frontier, where measuring the distance between nostrils is considered vital to unlocking the secrets of the master race. You rub your eyes, sip cold tea, wonder if your ancestors would be proud. Probably not. You turn to the second page. There's a photo. A man, dark hair, dark skin, staring blankly at the camera, lips slightly parted. His nose is circled in red ink. In the margin, note, shape inconsistent with Nordic standard, possibly Berber influence. You set the file down. You breathe out slowly. This is the kind of science on Ahnenerbe traffics in measuring identity with calipers and drawing conclusions with prejudice. And now you're in it. Your task for the day: reevaluate nasal angle correlations across category B skulls, which is just a fancy way of saying measure some noses and pretend it means something. Skull 6-3B, average bridge, rounded tip. Chart says that's Mediterranean deviant, whatever that means. Skull 77A, narrow, tall, sharp nasal spine, acceptable Aryan structure. Reads the type label. You suppress a groan, because this isn't science. It's aesthetics weaponized into ideology. Historians still argue how deeply the Nazi regime believed in this cranio-nose nonsense. Was it faith, politics, a propaganda tool that grew its own legs? What's not debated? They funded it. Thousands of hours, thousands of skulls, whole teams dedicated to proving that identity could be extracted with a ruler. And now you're doing it, too. You pause to stretch. Your back cracks. The archive is unusually quiet. Even the humming has stopped. You wish it would come back. You miss the humming. You reach for the next skull only to find it's already on your desk. Skull 44D. But you catalogued 44D 3 days ago. You check your ledger. It's there. Logged. Measured. Filed. So why is it here? You examine it again. Same. Nasal ridge. Same wide set eyes. But now the jaw is cracked. The upper teeth are missing. That wasn't the case before. You stare. Hard. Then notice something else. A note inside the cranial cavity. Not taped. Not stuck. Just resting there. Like a message in a bottle. You pull it out. He had the wrong nose. So they made him leave it behind. You drop it. It flutters to the floor. Paper thin. YELLOWED. When you pick it up again. The words are gone. Only the outline remains like they evaporated from embarrassment. You're not sure if it's a prank or something worse. But you measure 44D again. Log it. Pretend it's normal. Because if you don't, someone might think you're the anomaly. And you've seen what happens to anomalies. Around 3 p.m. The lights flicker. Standard procedure. Except they don't stop flickering. They stutter. Every 7 seconds. Exactly. You count. 1 to 3 on the 4th flicker. The skulls seem closer. You don't check again. You decide to take a break. Not upstairs, just around the corner. By the shelf where the skulls without jawbones are stored. The non-speaking group. As you've quietly named them, you sit on the stool. Breathe. Close your eyes. You dream for only a second, but it's enough. You're back in Tibet. Or somewhere like it. Climbing a staircase carved into a cliffside. At the top, a doorway carved in bone. And a single voice chanting, measure the vessel. Forget the spirit. You wake up with a nosebleed. Just a small one, but enough to stain the ledger. You blot the page, turn it, move on. Skull 99C. Nasal aperture. Narrow. Septal deviation. Yes. Status. Unfit. You pause. What does that mean, unfit? Unfit for what? You flip through the file. There's no photo. Just a diagram. A skull. Circled. Next to it. Subject deemed unsuitable. Transferred to collection 17A. You've never heard of collection 17A. You check the map. It doesn't exist. So you do what you've learned to do best. Pretend. You file the note. Rebox the skull. Return it to the shelf. Even though you know you'll see it again tomorrow. Because that's how this place works. Skulls return. Measurements change. And noses lie. That night. You dream you're the one being measured. Your nasal bridge is too low. Your eye sockets too round. Your supervisor shakes her head. Not suitable, she says. For what? You ask. For remembering, she replies. You wake with a ruler in your hand. Still warm, still wet. You arrive the next morning to find a note on your desk. Not typed. Not official. Just 3 words. Handwritten in looping. Oddly juvenile script. Where's the shield? You blink at it. Then read it again. The shield. You haven't worked with shields. You're a skull guy. You alphabetize bones and measure nasal ridges. You drink terrible tea and mutter to yourself when the lights flicker. Shields are not your problem. Except now they are. Because when you turn to shelf 8B, where the miscellaneous non-cranial artifacts are stored, you see a space, a clean, rectangular gap. You check the log. Item 8B12. Bronze Age Scandinavian. Shield. Recovered from peat bog. Presumed Viking. Last signed out. Never. You stare at the gap like it might confess something. And then you realize what's truly strange. The dust pattern. All the other objects on the shelf are covered in a fine layer of time cobwebs, powder, tiny flakes of cataloging dignity. But where the shield was, it's clean. To clean. Like it wasn't just moved. Like it was never there. You file a notice. Standard procedure. You check the cameras. Blank. Always are. You mention it to the man with the glasses. He nods. Says, objects. Sometimes unfile themselves. Keep searching. You ask, should I report it to Central? He smiles faintly. Why would you do that? You do not ask again. You pull the old box labeled Nordic Relics, contested. Open it, inside. Rusted fragments of axe heads. Bits of fur. A spoon shaped like Thor's hammer. And at the bottom, something heavy wrapped in wool. You unfold the cloth. Not the shield, but a photo of it. Taken in the 1930s. To researchers standing beside it. Knee-deep in a bog, smiling as if they'd just found treasure. The shield is round, dark, pitted with age. It has markings, runes, circles, scratches that seem accidental, until you see the same eye inside will symbol from the Sanskrit scroll. No one catalogue that. You make a note. Shield marked with identical symbology as manuscript 13Z, likely related to pre-Aryan myth cycles or ritual channeling. Or would rot. You always add a joke at the end now. For balance. Historians still argue whether Ahnenerbe genuinely believed the Norse were spiritual super weapons vessels of ancient power lost to time, or whether the obsession was just good branding. But they did dig. And dig thousands of hours combing bogs for what they called ancestral memory objects. Swords, helmets, antlers, and shields. The kind that might awaken something old, as one memo said. You didn't think they meant that literally. Until now. You spend the day hunting. No sign of the shield. You check the misfiled shelf, the furnace, room, even the tea cabinet, because, frankly, anything feels possible. Nothing. But that night, as you pack to leave, you pass the glass case near the stairs, the one with the Slavic idol, the Mongolian scepter, and the half-melted mirror labeled, "Do not clean," and it's there. The shield, behind the glass, right beside the scepter, propped upright, like it had always been there. You rush to your notes. The case is labeled for items 10C through 10F. The shield is 8B12. It shouldn't be here. You turn to grab the ledger, to correct the filing. But when you look back, the shield is gone. Just the idol, the scepter, the mirror. You stare. The mirror stares back, and for one brief, flashing moment, you think you see the shield's reflection still there, though not visible in real space. You blink. The mirror fogs slightly, like breath, but no one is near. You leave a note for yourself. If the shield returns, request protective gloves. Or holy water. You chuckle, half sincere. That night, you dream of bogs. Not peaceful ones. Black water. Hands reaching up. Shapes moving slowly through the mist. You are holding the shield, but it is heavier than it should be. Made not of wood, but of compressed names whispered into it over centuries, until they hardened. And something is knocking. From the inside. You wake up. Back at your desk. With peat under your fingernails. The next day, the shield is back in its original place. Shall fate be. As if it never left. The dust around it is undisturbed. You touch nothing. You simply file the event as temporal misplacement, likely archival drift. Case closed pending reality verification. Then, you pour a large cup of tea. You don't drink it. You just watch the steam rise. And wait for the next thing to move. You begin to notice something about the archive at night. Not just the humming, which has returned thankfully, in a strange way, but something subtler, quieter, a kind of WATCHFULNESS. Like the air is waiting for you to notice. Like the space between objects is somehow alive. It starts with the glass cases. There's one near the corridor bend, simple, wooden frame, reinforced corners. It houses a selection of minor items, an obsidian amulet, a brass medallion shaped like a beetle, a few unidentified tools marked, likely ceremonial. But last night, you swear one of them blinked. It wasn't dramatic, just a flicker, a soft closing of eyelids that shouldn't be there. And when you turned your head, it stopped. You decide it's exhaustion. Your eyes playing tricks. Until it happens again. Different case. Different object. This time, a mask from somewhere near Sumatra. Worn, cracked, painted with wide, exaggerated eyes. You've passed it 100 times, but now those eyes follow you. And the worst part, they're a different color than yesterday. You take no chances. You file a form. Visual variation detected. In Artifact 10D, recommend reanalysis or exorcism. Standard protocol. You assume dot. No one replies dot today. Your assigned section is storage room X7. The overflow for unidentified occult adjacent objects. It smells like cinnamon and rust. You unlock the door. Step inside dot and find that someone has rearranged everything. The crates are stacked differently. The chalk markings on the floor used to separate artifact groups are now in a spiral. You double check the manifest. No notes. No record of reorganization. And in the center of the spiral, a glass container. Round, black base. Inside, a preserved eye. Just one, floating in yellow fluid. No label. No number. Just a small card propped against the glass. Do not make eye contact. You try not to. You really do. But you glance, and the pupil dilates. You blink, step back, almost trip over a crate. The lights flicker, and you swear the pupil tracks you as you move. You leave the room. You do not close the door behind you. Historians still argue whether Ahnenerbe ever succeeded in creating a true paranormal wing. There are documents fragmented, redacted, dismissed as fantasy that suggest otherwise. Yet here you are, and things are watching. You go to the camera room, one of the few places with functioning equipment. You rewind the reel from the hallway outside X-7 frame by frame at to 12 a.m. The spiral on the floor forms itself. Chalk lines drag across the stone drawn by nothing. The eye jar moves into place. Then the camera shorts. You stare at the static dot, take a sip of cold tea, and realize something else. That was your hallway shift. You were there and you don't remember a thing. Later, back at your desk, you notice a new label has been added to the archive log. Artifact 10X7A, autonomous organ, floating. Status, hostile observational. You didn't write that, but it's in your handwriting. You underline hostile, then cross it out, then write, let's just say, curious. You look around. The glass cases are still. The lights hum softly. Overhead, you exhale and notice the mirror. Yes, that mirror, the one labeled do not clean, is now fogged. You approach it. There's a handprint in the condensation, 5 fingers, long to long. You check your own hand against it. The print is bigger and it's on the inside of the glass. You submit 3 reports that day. One about the eye, one about the mirror, and one about the spiral. Each ends with the phrase, recommend immediate archival blessing or, I don't know, salt. You never get a reply. Just a fresh file. Thicker than usual. Labeled, project, mirrored room study, volunteer selection pending. You recognize your name on the cover. In bold, and underneath, status, approved. You close the file. You do not open it again. Instead, you pour more tea. No sugar. And avoid your reflection the rest of the day, because, now, when you blink, your reflection doesn't. They finally tell you where the mirrored rooms are, basement level X13. Not listed on any of the old maps. Accessed only through a narrow stairwell behind the supply room. Hidden behind a curtain that's not really a curtain, it's a tapestry. Woven with the same spiral you saw chalked on the floor. You were approved last week, apparently. The file says so. It also says you agreed. You don't remember agreeing. You go anyway, because this is Ahnenerbe. And in Ahnenerbe, the punishment for curiosity is certainty. The stairwell is tight, winding, barely wide enough for your shoulders. The air gets colder as you descend. Not just basement cold, but refrigerated church in November cold. At the bottom, you reach a steel door with no handle, only a camera eye and a soft click when it recognizes you. Of course it does. The door opens. Inward, silent, like it was waiting. The room is exactly what it sounds like. Mirrors. Walls, floor, ceiling, every surface is reflective, but not bright, not clean. These mirrors are aged, tinted. They warp slightly at the edges, like the room itself is under tension. You step inside. Your reflection. Steps later, you pause. You do it again, move, blink, raise a hand. Your reflection always lags by a hair, a fraction, enough to notice, enough to itch at your perception like a mosquito that never lands. And when you look closely, you realize the eyes in the reflection don't match your own. Not quite. Yours are tired. Slightly red. There's a wide. Almost amused, you check the floor. Perfect mirror. But you're not standing alone. There's a second shadow, long, narrow, reaching toward your ankle like a hand, trying to remember how to grab. You step back. The shadow doesn't. You don't scream. You don't run. You do what archivists are trained to do. Observe. Catalogue. Report. You kneel. Write in your notebook. X13 observation room. Time lag confirmed. Reflections unstable. Entity presence suspected. Recommending salt. Again. You. Underline again twice. Historians still argue whether Ahnenerbe ever created a functional psychomimetic environment spaces that mirror consciousness instead of just light. The mirrored rooms were theorized, rumored, but no plans survived. Or maybe they were never written down. Maybe they reflected themselves into being. You conduct standard tests. Hand raise, blink, smile. On the fifth try, the reflection doesn't smile. Back. It frowns, then opens its mouth. You don't, but the sound still comes. A soft whisper, right next to your ear. Not yet. You leave. Carefully. Not running. Not until you're back up the stairs. Tapestry pulled back over the entrance like a child hiding from the monster. By becoming it. You go straight to the supply closet. Grab chalk, salt, incense, if there is any. There is and single quotes. Just a small paper packet, labeled emergency consecration, experimental. You sprinkle it across the threshold. The mirrors hum. Or maybe that's your blood. You return to your desk. The logbook is open. Someone's already written the report for you, word for word. Even your joke at the end. Status, reflectively compromised. Recommend blessing, or vodka. You didn't write that. But the pen's still warm. That night, the dreams come fast and fragmented. You're in the mirrored room again. But it's larger now. The walls recede endlessly. There are others' reflections not tied to bodies. Some walk, some crawl. One just hovers in place, mouth open, whispering the same syllable on repeat. You turn. And there you are. Yourself. Holding a skull. Smiling. Then the smile slides sideways off your face, like paint melting under heat. You wake up with your pillow soaked. The glass of water by your bed is empty and cracked. You arrive at work early. The mirrored room is locked now. No camera, no door. Just blank wall. As if it was never there. Except your notebook still has the entry. And the salt near the tapestry is blackened. You add a postscript. Do not clean mirror 1 ever. Also, don't trust reflections after 3 a.m. Then, you drink your tea. Straight from the thermos. No sugar. Because your reflection in the spoon was smiling before you were. You've been promoted. No one told you, of course. That would be to normal. Instead, you arrived this morning to find your desk on the ledger. The tape measures, even the skulls you'd been working on all week, vanished. In their place, small note written in thick black pencil. Report to Sublevel Q. Bring gloves. Do not bring questions. Sublevel Q does not exist. You've read every floor plan in this archive, some hand-drawn, others printed on cracking parchment, one that might have been carved into calf skin. No Q, but you've also learned that not existing doesn't really mean anything around here. So you go. Behind the lift shaft is a service tunnel, barely lit. Your flashlight beam flickers like it's holding in a sneeze. The air smells metallic, like blood diluted in copper. You walk for 7 minutes and 42 seconds. Then the floor ends, not abruptly, wrongly. Like it folds under itself, but you step anyway. And now you're in sublevel Q. Congratulations on the promotion. Your new assignment. Assemble the time machine. They won't call it that, officially. The file is labeled Device, Reversal Model, Temporal Drift Unité Experimental. Handle with reverence. Your job is to organize the pieces. Laid out on a wide wooden table are dozens of components, gears, coils, etched copper discs, wires with ends that fade into nothingness, like they were halfway forgotten. And in the middle, a blueprint, faded ink on vellum, written in poetic Latin. That's right, poetic Latin. Lines that rhyme, phrases that loop. One stanza reads, turn, not the key that faces east, for time devours its slowest feast. You consider emailing Etchup. Then remember you was reassigned to the listening room and hasn't been seen since. So you get to work, piece by piece. The machine begins to take shape. It doesn't look like any time machine from movies. No glowing tubes, no whirling chairs, just a frame made of blackened bone, copper ribs, and a mirror panel at the center that shows no reflection, only static. You bolt one gear into place. A low tone vibrates the air around you. You screw in a second coil. Your nose starts bleeding again. Historians still argue whether Ahnenerbe genuinely pursued time travel, or if the idea was symbolic, a metaphor for returning to a mythical pre-modern past. But the plans in front of you, they're not metaphorical. Someone tried to build something, and you are now continuing it. There's a drawer at the base of the table. You open it. Inside, a notebook with your name embossed on the cover. You've never seen it before. You open to the first page. It's in your handwriting. Day 12. Machine pulses louder at dusk. Avoid eye contact with central mirror. Do not test theory 7 again. You flip forward. Day 13. Day 14. Entries filled with equations you don't understand. Diagrams of spirals. One crude drawing of a skull with a clock inside. Then a blank page. You write, day unknown, resumed assembly, memories inconsistent, nosebleeds manageable. You close the book. You continue, because what else is there? At some point, the man with the glasses appears again. You don't hear him enter. He places a small object on the table beside you, a tooth, not fossilized, not aged. Still warm. You don't ask. He doesn't speak, but before he turns to leave, he says, try theory 7 again. This time, don't blink. Then he disappears down the corridor, behind the elevator shaft. The one you can't remember seeing before. You place the tooth into the machine. It clicks into a socket perfectly shaped for it. Of course it does. The hum deepens. The mirror pane flickers. And for a moment, you see something inside. A forest. A sky lit by 2 suns. A figure kneeling, whispering to a pile of bones. Then static. You mark it in the notebook. You clean the table. You drink tea. The cup is full before you pour. You drink it anyway. The mirror hums. And in its surface, you see yourself older, paler, holding a file labeled, assignment complete. Await retrieval. You don't remember completing anything. You're not sure what you're building anymore. But the machine is almost done. You start forgetting things. Not the usual things, names, dates, passwords, but bigger things, foundations. You forget what year it is. You forget where your flat is. You forget, for one horrifying moment, whether your left hand has always been your left hand. You laugh it off. At first. Then you check the mirror in the break room. You're still there. Still you. But your reflection has a small scar above the eyebrow. You do not. You keep a journal now. Not the official notebook for Project Temporal Drift, just a little one you found in an empty drawer. Red cover, yellow ribbon, smells faintly of ash. Each night, before you leave, you write, my name is your name. I am the archivist. I live in address left blank. I work at Ahnenerbe. I am assembling a theoretical time device. I drink too much tea. Note to self, check teeth count every morning. Because yesterday, you had one more molar than you should. And today it's gone again. The machine continues to grow. New parts arrive daily, some by crates, others in envelopes without postage. One day you receive a box filled with sinew, labeled chronotendons. You try not to touch it directly. There are now 7 gears rotating in silence, powered by nothing. You didn't install the 7th. You're not sure who did. You check. The logs. They're written in your handwriting. You did not write them. One entry reads, Gear 7 installed per phase whisper protocol. Commencement sequence verified via lunar calibration. You don't know what any of that means. You underline whisper. You add, suspect poetic sabotage. You chuckle. A little too loud. That day. The hallway outside your workshop seems longer. Like it stretched overnight. You pace it out. 17 steps yesterday. 23 today. You mark the wall with chalk. The mark is gone by morning. Historians still argue whether time manipulation was ever part of real Ahnenerbe research. Some point to scattered fragments, memoirs, destroyed patents, rumors from post-war interrogations. One famous account from a British intelligence officer claimed the Nazis had built a doorway, but lost the key. If that's true, you might be holding the spare. And now the door is humming. That evening, you test a theory. You place a spoon beside the machine. At exactly 3:03 a.m. when you return in the morning. There are two spoons. Identical. Except one has a note taped to it. This one remembers your name. You throw both spoons away. You find them again the next day. In your lunchbox. Wrapped in the red string that once bound the Sanskrit scroll. You throw away the lunchbox. Then there's the matter of the moon. You notice it's wrong. Too large, too bright, slightly oblong. You ask a colleague if they've noticed. They say, moon. Like it's not a thing they're aware of. You drop it. But that night, you sketch the moon in your notebook. You look up. It matches. Exactly. Down to the scar. Across the lower ridge that shouldn't exist. You make a note. Moon appears personalized. Request confirmation from astronomical authority. Or priest. You file the request. It disappears. You begin finding doubles. Not people. Objects. To ink bottles. To keys. To coats. You keep forgetting which is which. You find a second pair of boots under your desk. They're your size. Inside one, a note. These are yours. Other you won't mind. You do not put them on. You wear your old shoes until they fall apart. Then, reluctantly, you wear the others. They fit better. To well. You write in your journal. Memory no longer linear. Objects multiplying. Self-fracture probable. Recommend. Tether protocol T. Humor. Cold air. You underline humor. Then forget why you needed to. Your last thought before sleep that night is this. Did I build the machine? Or did it build me? You don't remember falling asleep. You just wake. At your desk. Again. And this time, the machine is gone. You sit before the machine. It's quiet now. Oh hum. No static. Just a low thrum that you feel more in your ribs than your ears. Like the silence after a song you forgot was playing. The copper frame gleams faintly under the basement light. The mirror core no longer shows your reflection, just shapes. Not quite images, suggestions of other rooms, other lives. One of them shows you, but older, or younger, or sideways. You close the cover, you reach for the logbook. It's already open. Your latest entry reads, tested device at 6:06, partial traversal achieved, returned intact, memory fragmented, but retrievable. Device responds to breath plus intent. You didn't write that, but you remember it. You glance down. The spoon is gone. You sit for a long time, trying to remember the child's voice from the city in the sky, the way she said breath of memory, the way the mountains curved like vertebrae. You remember the shrine. You remember your own eyes, closed in crystal, and you remember what the inscription said. Scratched into the base with careful, ancient hands. He who left, to return without arrival. You had to come back. You had to. You turn to your shelf. Look at the skulls. They're still arranged alphabetically, but today they feel different. As if they're waiting. You pull skull 11Z from the drawer. The one that always feels colder than the others. Its cranial ridges shimmer faintly under the desk lamp, as if remembering something. As if you've done this before. You open the machine's hatch. Insert the skull. It fits. Not mechanically. Symbolically. It makes a sound. Not a click. not a hum, a sigh. As though something buried long ago has finally accepted its role. Historians still argue whether time travel is movement through a dimension or an agreement with the fabric of memory. Whether to travel forward, backward, or inward, one must be granted permission by the past. You think that's true, because the machine is not powered by fuel. It's powered by remembrance. Yours and someone else's, and possibly the skulls. The mirror turns black. A shape flickers across the surface. It's the Tibetan monk again. The one from your dream, the one wearing the SS uniform. Only now he's wearing your coat. He nods. You nod back. And the mirror splits open. Not. Cracks splits. Peels itself sideways into a thin, jagged doorway. The room behind it is pale blue. Flickering. Floating shapes. Walls made of written language. You take a step forward. Only one. And the machine speaks. Not with sound. Not with language. But with sensation. It tells you. Not yet. The mirror closes. Your foot is still warm from the threshold. You sit again. Take another sip of tea. It's lukewarm. Just how you like it. You pick up the logbook. Right. Mirror opened. Contact established. Return pending. Device knows more than I do. Trust pending. You close the book. The machine powers down. Or sleeps. Or waits. You check the drawers. Each skull is in place. Except for one. Skull 31A. Gone again. Replaced with a note. She's waiting in the city of silence. You remember her. The girl in the plaza. The child who did not speak. You feel your hands trembling. Not from fear. Not anymore. From longing. From recognition. Because you don't know who she is. But you know who you were when she said your name. You close the cabinet. Turn off the lights. The mirror glows faintly behind you. You don't look back. Because not everything needs to be seen to be remembered. You stop measuring skulls. No one tells you to. No one tells you not to. You just stop. They stay in their drawers, quietly indifferent to your career change. And you stay at your desk, watching the machine. It doesn't hum anymore. It breathes, faint, expansions, soft contractions, like it's learning to mimic you. Like it's trying to guess your rhythm. Some days you leave offerings. A tooth, a page torn from your journal, a single spoon. Sometimes the items are still there the next day. Sometimes they are not. Once, they return multiplied. The hallways shift. Again, you don't notice at first. Just a longer corridor here. A narrower stair there. But then, the archive floor plan on the wall changes. Slightly. A door appears where there wasn't one before. It leads nowhere. Just a brick wall and the scent of wet soil. You close it. Behind you, the machine exhales. They ask you to attend a meeting. They say they. But no names are given. You are led down a hallway that smells of burnt ink and old leather. There are paintings on the wall now, portraits of people you've never seen, but whose eyes follow you with gentle accusation. At the end of the hall, a room lit only by candles. 4 figures sit around a table. Robes, not SS uniforms, not lab coats, just robes, beige, nondescript, but unsettling in their confidence. In the center of the table, your skull, not metaphorical. Your skull. You recognize the fracture behind the left ear, the molar with the gold cap. You touch your face. It's still there, but so is this. You've done well, one of them says. The machine remembers because you forgot. Now it is ready. You try to speak, but your voice doesn't follow you. Just a dry breath. They push a small envelope toward you. Inside, a key. Bone, not metal. The kind of key that fits no lock made by human hands. You nod, not because you understand, but because something inside you already turned. You return to your chamber. The machine is awake again. It purrs, like a cat with knowledge of the stars. The mirror is open, wide this time like a wound in space. You peer inside. See the archive, not as it is, but as it was, and as it will be. The skulls are walking, filing papers, pouring tea. One of them waves. You wave back. You feel foolish. You keep waving anyway. Historians still argue whether the Ahnenerbe was truly about the past or whether it was a mechanism to rewrite the present by unearthing potential pasts, the idea that by measuring, classifying, naming the bones, you could reshape the story, but the machine doesn't measure. It remembers. And now, so do you. You retrieve the red journal, the one that knew your name. You flip to the final page. It's blank. Then, slowly, words appear. She's still waiting. The path is clear. You may forget again. That's allowed. Just leave the light on this time. You place the key into the machine. It fits. The hum becomes a chord. The mirror expands, spirals, dissolves. You feel air on your face, not from this world. It smells like sage and stone. And home. You step forward. Halfway. Then stop. Because you remember, you left the tea on the stove. You laugh quietly. Because maybe that was the whole point. You place one final note on the desk. Back soon. Probably. Then you walk into the mirror. The machine sighs once more. And closes behind you. You do not arrive. That's the first thing you notice. There's no moment of transition, no flash, no burst, no collapsing tunnel of light. There's just a soft flicker, like someone turning a page, and then you're somewhere else entirely. But you are not there. You are near there, a whisper outside the margins of a place too old to remember itself. The landscape is silence, not empty. Just still. You stand in a field of black grass, swaying without wind. Above you, the sky curves like a dome carved from pearl. There is a sun, or something sun-like, bleeding silver across the horizon. In the distance, you see her, the child from the city of silence, older now. Or maybe you're just seeing her differently. She does not wave. She simply turns, and you follow. You walk for what feels like days. Or memories. The path is made of bones, not human, curved to many joints. They pulse faintly with warmth. On either side, statues. Each one wears your face. Each one holds a different object. A spoon, a mirror, a skull, a flower, a key. Some are broken. Some are weeping. One is missing its head. You do not linger. She leads you to the library. Yes. That library. The one you've dreamed about, but never built. The one buried beneath the first thought of time. Its doors are made of language, sentences layered and burned into wood. You don't read them. You remember them. Inside. The shelves go up forever. There is no ceiling. No floor. Really just stone and shadow and the rustle of memory being dusted off. She brings you to a small table. On it, a single book, bound in skin, but not the bad kind. It feels like yours. The cover is blank. She places your hand on it. It opens. The pages turn by themselves. At first, nonsense. Diagrams of circles inside spirals. A sketch of a beetle holding a spoon. A phrase repeated over and over. Do not eat the biscuit. You smile. Then, words begin to arrange themselves. Archivist 7. Temporal authority. Limited, but sufficient. Memory status. Splintered, but loyal. Machine status. Active. Return status. Optional. You look at her. She nods. Slowly. Points to the last page. You turn it. There's only one sentence. Do you want to forget again? You stare at it for a long time. Long enough for the ink to shift beneath your eyes. The question remains, but the meaning changes. It begins to sound like, are you ready to remember everything? You close the book. The room hums. The shelves sigh. The mirrors behind the stacks ripple gently. You don't answer, but something in the silence takes your stillness as a yes. You walk again, out of the library. Into the city of silence. The wind speaks. In Sanskrit, the buildings bow slightly as you pass. A boy runs by you carrying a skull, laughing. It's yours. You let him keep it. The girl, no longer a girl, stays behind. She mouths a final phrase. We don't archive time. We feed it. You wake up at your desk. Your desk. In the archive. The machine sits in front of you. Idle. But warm. A cup of tea steams gently at your elbow. You open the logbook. Your last entry reads, returned with additions. No longer require. Mirrors. Skull 31A still missing. Probably happier. Recalibrated self. Recommend more biscuits. You laugh. Then pause. Because on the far shelf, someone's placed a new skull. Not labeled. Not registered. Just sitting there. Waiting. You stand. You walk toward it. You whisper, welcome back. You do not question how it got there. Some stories don't require proof, only remembrance. You leave the light on now. Always. Not because you're afraid, no. Not anymore, but because you understand what it means to be seen. What it means for something buried to finally surface and say, I was always here. The archive is quieter. These days. Not less haunted. Just. More comfortable with itself. The skulls don't shift as often. The mirrors remain mostly still. The machine hums less and breathes more, like it's dozing. Like it's dreaming of you. Or maybe through you. Your tasks are different now. No more measuring noses. No more calipers. No more pseudo-scientific cataloguing of cheekbones and ancestral arrogance. Now you listen. You sit near the machine. Pour your tea and let the pages come to you. The ledger writes itself some mornings. Sketches spiral from your pen without thought. One entry is just a list of names, none of them familiar. One is only a symbol, the eye, the wheel, the spiral. One entry is blank, but the page smells like snow and cedar and a language no longer spoken aloud. You walk the halls and they feel different beneath your boots, softer, like the stone remembers. You nod to the paintings on the walls. They nod back. You check the locked rooms out of habit. Most are still sealed. Except for one, room 17A. The one you thought didn't exist. It's open now. Inside, a chair, a typewriter, and a note. Everything happens just once, and then, if you're lucky, it echoes. You smile. Close the door behind. You let it echo. Sometimes you still see her, the girl. The silence, the city. In dreams, in flickers, in shadows on the wall behind your tea kettle. She doesn't speak now. She doesn't need to. Her presence is enough, a reassurance that what you remembered mattered. That the spiral wasn't just madness, but map. That the machine didn't bring you back, you brought yourself. Historians will never agree on what Ahnenerbe truly was. A think tank of racists in tweed suits. A black budget occult factory. A monument to delusion. They will debate, publish, revise, erase, but they will not know what you know. That there was a machine. That it was never meant to travel through time. It was built to archive the memory of time itself. And you were the last one it trusted. You find a final envelope on your desk. Inside, a spoon. Bent. Old. Familiar. You place it beside the machine. It begins to purr. You exhale. Close your journal. You let the tea go cold. And for once, that feels just fine. Asterisk. You lean back in your chair now. And, for the first time, you don't feel the weight of the walls. The shadows don't whisper quite so insistently. The machine hums, yes, but softly, like a lullaby sung in a language older than breath. You watch the candle flicker on the edge of your desk, the way it always has, as if the flame itself were waiting for this moment to finally slow down. Outside, the halls are still, the skulls rest, the drawers sleep. The files murmur in their dreams, but gently, like paper rustling under the wind of memory. You sit quietly, listening to it all, the deep, slow rhythm of a world that never needed to end just to be remembered properly. You reach for your cup of tea, still warm enough to comfort. You sip, and you smile, because even here, even now after mirrored rooms and dream trains, and libraries made of silence, you're still you, the archivist, the listener, the witness to the breath of memory. And somewhere far away, or maybe deep within, the girl is still waiting. The skull is still watching, and the spiral, patient and ancient, continues to turn. Let it turn. Let it all rest. You did your part. Leave the light on. Just in case.